Okay. It's important not to forget to record. So we are holding Abu tight in the middle of the halachot of Shabbat of using electricity and electrical appliances. Okay, this year is L'Refuat Shalima Mazal Bat Liza, who should have an immediate refuah, and she should be able to go back home to her children and her baby that's waiting for her. She's already in the hospital for 2 weeks and unable to move. She is paralyzed to a certain extent, and she should have refuah shlema in all the Torah learning that we learn tonight. Mazal Bat Liza. Okay, so let's get into it. On page 137, and we're going to be starting now what we began last week, which was electric sensors. Okay, so nowadays we have a eye that sees and an ear that hears, right? And everything is being written and recorded, right? You have cameras, you have lights, you have sounds, you have everything, automatic doors, and all these type of things. How do they play into Shabbat? Meaning, you walk down one of these streets and you have a light sensor that that can go on when a person is walking there. So is a person allowed to walk there on Shabbat? If it's a timer, meaning that it goes on and off at the timer, then of course we have nothing to talk about. There's no problem with that. I think the guy on Healy Avenue by us, by Bay 20, between 25 and 24, there's the Geisha house there. His lights are actually on a timer. How do I know? Sometimes I walk by it, it doesn't go on at all. Sometimes I walk by it, it goes on. And it's not the walking, it's not sensor, it's on a timer, that's not a problem. We're talking about one of those houses that have, like over here on Bay Park. You walk down towards Healy Avenue, one of those houses, and you walk by it, the light goes on. So do I have to avoid it? If I can't avoid it, what do I do if I have to avoid it? And is there any instance where I don't care about it and I can just walk? So what is the halakha? So we're going to start with a Rashba. The Rashba writes that if page 137, the Rashba writes that if one's main intention is to perform a simple permitted action, doing so is permitted on Shabbat, even if this is also results in melacha, which one intends to perform as well. Look at the Rashba, source 28. Uvishalmi nira. Shehitiru lin'ol lechatchila beito lishmor beito v'tzvi shebetocho. Guy has a deer in his house, and he's walking in or out of his house, and he wants to lock his house. He wants to protect his house. He doesn't want it to stay open for random people to come in. So he wants to lock his house. The kibin shehu tzarech lishmor beito alpha pishay dekach nitzod hatzvi mimela mutter ulvad shelo yitkaven lishmor et hatzvi bilvad shilu tzarech lin'ol ba'ado mutar alpha pishay mitkaven shi hatzvi nitzod bitocho. So says the Rashba, a huge chiddush. Says the Rashba that if I'm doing something that will also lead to a malacha, but I'm doing it because by this is the way I just closed my house, even though I want the malacha also, it would be okay. The Ran is not very happy with this. Saying they want to have deer meat after Shabbat. Yeah, he wants that deer to be caught, right? So he wants the Ran says, no, this is a classic example of sick ratio. And closing the door is forbidden. Even if one has no intention of trapping the deer. Source 29 says the Ran, the words of the Rashba are astonishing to me. Right? Hey, extra, how could it be mutter? You think just because he wants to close his door, we're going to allow him to do a malacha? It's a sigresha. It's not going to be allowed. As long as I know that the deer is there, as long as I know the deer is there, you cannot lock it, even if I don't care about the deer, says the Ran. And this is what he says, the psikresha. Psikresha v'lo yomus. This is a classic psikresha, says the Ran. So you have a Rashba. The Rashba's chiddush is, I don't care about the deer. I'm just locking my door to protect my house. Even though the deer is there, I lock it. And says the Ran, that's a psikresha, and that is awesome. Now, you're saying it's not considered trapped if it's in a big place. Right. We talked about that when we were learning tzad. Right. Okay. The Shiltei Giborim explains page 138. Right. That's when it's considered, when it's trapped, when it's no more mechutz tzad. Right. Okay. So the Shiltei Giborim explains that in this case, the psik reisha consists of a person performing one act that causes two separate, distinct results. The guy is closing his door to his house, and he's closing it, and closing his house to protect it also is locking up the deer. Since the primary intended result is simply making the house secure, closing the door is permitted according to the Rashba, even though a secondary intended result is trapping the deer. So the Shiltei Giborim wants to explain why it's not a complete psik reisha, like when I'm cutting off the head of the chicken. I don't know the chicken, of course, is going to die. Here, I'm locking the door to protect the house. Happens to be also that there is a deer there. So it's like two different things happening. It's not the one same thing. However, the Magen Avraham rules that you should not go with the Rashba. Mishnah Berurah says also don't go with the Rashba. According to what we're seeing here, that a person should not activate a light sensor on Shabbat. Even though I just want to walk there, I have nothing to do with it. I'm walking there, and the light is going on. I'm sort of turning it on. And therefore, it's a psik reisha. And a person should not walk there, according to the Magen Avraham and the Mishnah Berurah, from what they're bringing down, based on the Ran. A person should not be able to walk in front of light sensors on Shabbat that go on. Okay, now there is a Shalot Tshuva Cheshev HaEfod. And he says, you know what? You are right that there is a psik reisha. There is a psik reisha over here, but it's not the way psik reisha usually happens. Psik reisha is I cut off the head of the chicken. I want to play with the head, and I don't care about the chicken, but the chicken is going to die. He says over here, if one closes the door while the door is inside, this is not the way to trap a deer. If I want to trap a deer, I tie it up. I do something else. This is not the actual way of doing psik reisha. So I have this Rashba, says the Shal Shuv Cheshev HaEfod, and I also have that the Aruch. There is an Aruch. The Aruch says psik reisha Deloy Nichala by Rabbanon is mutter. So therefore, first of all, so now you have to look at the light. So let's say it's let's say that the light is the Rabbanon, meaning it's an LED light and it's not a real light. You're gonna have less problems. But at the moment, let's say it's an actual light, right? So as you say, according to the view of the Aruch, psik reisha is mutar, and it's only also the Rabbanan, even in a Doraita case. So here you have the Rashba and you have the Aruch, so you have a tziruf to be mater to walk in front of the light, as long as that you're not intending to turn on the light. I don't really need that light. So here's the case, Abutai. According to the Cheshev HaEfod, I'm walking outside. It's the middle of the winter. It's night. I'm walking outside on Shabbat, and I know that this house has a sensor that goes on when I walk by. But I don't care for that light. I don't need that light. I don't care for that light. So I have the Rashba who says, I'm just walking there. I don't care about anything. And then it's a psik reisha according to the Aruch and others. That's also going to be okay. Since I have this tziruf, it's okay to walk over there. That's so far one shita that we have. Now, there will be a difference. In the 39 Melachot, Rabbi says that what happens if I'm in the country or I'm in a place, I don't have to go to the country. You go to certain places in Muncie and certain places upstate where it's very, very dark. And it's going to be Nicholay. So now you're running into different problems because now I want the light. I need to see, right? So there are eitzot he brings down. He says that you can close your eyes before you go to the place where it's going to go on. And you walk this piece is going to walk on. You close your eyes so you're not seeing it, and then you can open your eyes because it's already on, and then you can walk the rest of the thing. Also, perhaps if you have no other choice, you can walk in the shinui, walk sideways. Okay, walk sideways. You're not doing it the regular way. You're doing it with the shinui. You can what? Yeah, but you're walking. You're walking to the issue here is that you're turning on the light and you're having a nichala. It's nicha to you, and it's the regular way of doing it, which is turning it on with your body in a regular straight way. So those who say if you have no choice, you should close your eyes and walk sideways, and then open your eyes when it's already on, if it's nichala. But most of our cases in the inner city where we live, it's not going to be a problem of a nichala because you don't really need it, and it's just sometimes it's very, very annoying that it goes on. Okay, there is another shita, and this is a very, very cool shita, very, very lenient shita, and this is the Siach Nachum. This is Reb Nachum Rabinovich. He was asked the question as follows. Someone sent the question to Reb Nachum Rabinovich as follows. He says, I go to my parents' house, and my parents have an alarm system. And the alarm system has a number of volume detectors. And he says there is only LED lights over here, and there's a control panel, and there's all sorts of backup batteries, and all sorts of whistles and sounds, and all these different things that are going on over here. Do I have to deactivate this alarm system every Shabbat? And that was this guy's question. Okay? You're just walking by it, and then the alarm system senses you, and the lights go on, this go on. So it's a whole system. Then he asks, can I enter through a door that opens automatically? So you have this, and you want to go visit some person in the hospital that's nearby, right? I mean, we don't have hospitals nearby here, but let's say you're in Forest Hills, and you want to go to the Forest Hills Hospital, right? Or Booth Memorial, whatever it is, whichever hospital person is familiar with. So they have the automatic doors. So he says part of the system here is that it has automatic doors, and it senses a person. Can I walk past this? And everything he says, there's actually no actual light. It's all LED lights. So we already saw last week that actual light is going to be malacha d'oraita, perhaps, of mav'ir, of kindling a light, which is a lot more strict to deal with. You can't definitely not do that. But an LED light, he says, keep saying, I have LED lights, all LED lights, and everything is motion censored. So there is electrical currents working over there, but there's no mav'ir, there's no kindling of a light. That's the question. If it has sparks, does it have something else going? If it's just an electrical current, then it's not mav'ir. I'm not sure how motors work, but if it has an electric spark, something heat or glowing, a vacuum cleaner. The vacuum cleaner. Rami, what do you think about the vacuum cleaner? Is there any mav'ir there? The mav'ir will be when you plug it in, there's a spark. That's what they're always worried about, the knowledge of the spark there.
Brush motor, the brushless motor. Brush motor, you don't know how the brush lit.
I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay, so
why not? Because those doors that you're talking about.
Yeah, and the motion sensor. They have motors. So then it must be that it's not a problem. But it's not a mavir. It's not mavir. Because they're all going to say that it's mutar. Rav Nachum Rabinovich wants to say, he says, I guess, listen, this is what he says. As long as you're talking about just electric circuits and the lights are only LEDs, such a no biblical malacha is involved. There's no mav'ir. Okay, there's no fire actually. And the movement of the person is essentially one that's absolutely permitted. The guy is just walking. And one is entering and leaving a room for his own needs. Entering and leaving is permitted, and the same applies to any innocent movement. In my humble opinion, the person does not have to deactivate the system. So this, by the way, is a very cool shita. We don't really follow the shita lichatchila. But Nachum Rabinovich basically says as follows. I'm walking normally. There is no deoraita here. It's a sikreisha deloy nichala, right? You say the door opened, it is nichala. So a lot of people want to hold that the door opening, I want to get through, it's not nichola that it's opening. It's just removing the door for me. So it's not really nichola. I don't really want it to happen this way. I just, the door is disappearing. And basically, it's a very cool dikashita, and that is of Nachum Rabinovich in the Siach Nachum. Blah halacha.
What do you do? Your house, my parents' house, they have an alarm, and you turn it off for Shabbat. But let's say a few cases, a few times over the years, they forgot to turn it off.
What type of alarm is this?
Alarm has motion detectors and
For the house?
Yeah.
So what happens when you go past it?
And it makes a beep, and the light goes on, and I don't know. So we a few times, thank God, not too often, but sometimes we forgot. What are you supposed to do? You can't go inside the house.
So you see, you're going to be able to go inside the house. If you can get a guy to disable it, even better. But if not,
What if you're home?
some would say to do stuff with the shinoi at this point and things like that.
Your home should stay there. She's not having the tzibur. What she do?
If there's a doraita going to be involved, then you might have to stay home, right? If there's a doraita involved, you might better not to go out. So that's what you have to find out. You have to find it. You might have ear or anything like that. Let's see. Okay. Yes, that's always the better. That's always the better way to do it. The only problem with that is sometimes you have to understand that the eye that looks, or sometimes it's the weight itself. So it's just if one guy is there, the second guy is still making a difference. It's not always so pasha that the door opens for one guy and then you go in that you didn't do anything. It's possible that you still do something depending on the mechanism of the thing. Anyway, says Orchot Shabbat. We're on page 140. We're gonna get into it. We're gonna go into it. We're gonna say in a minute. First, we're just working through the shitot. Okay. Orchot Shabbat says that a lot do not accept this leniency of the Siach Nachum. Rav Willig. They rule strict over here, and they say you cannot just walk by these alarm systems and these automatic doors. It doesn't exist like that. Orchot Shabbat, Rav Shmuel Vazner, Rav Harshel Schachter do permit walking normally past an outdoor electric sensor with a light next to the building if one does not need the light, similar to the view we saw of the Heshiva Ephod. So it depends. If I need it or I don't need it. If I want it or I don't want it. So it makes so much of a difference. Orchot Shabbat says, regarding one who is walking in the street and knows that when he passes by a certain building, a light will come on, but he's not intended to add to the building and is just walking past it. Great halachic authorities have ruled that according to the letter of the law, there's no prohibition. Therefore, if necessary, it's permitted to walk there. However, logically, if it's easy to walk a different way, one should do so. So, if it's a situation, I don't want it, I don't need it, it's going to happen, it's okay. Better walk around it.
Buildings, houses included?
What do you mean?
It says passing the buildings.
Same story. Anything that has a motion sensor.
So houses also.
Any motion
Let's say that
sensor
block
light.
has okay.
Any motion sensor light. It's all the same then. Taking a look. Yeah. Yep. There's no doraita, and I read this situation and it's okay according to the Siach Nachum. Okay, here I'm going to read to you from the laws of Shabbat. Rabbi Nachson says, one should not walk in front of motion sensor activated light that will turn on as he's passing by, even if you could see where he's going without the light. So, lechatchila, the best is not to walk there. I know that it's going to go on. I should walk around it. However, if there's no other way around the area, it's snow everywhere, and that's the only path, right? What am I going to do? Then one may rely on the lenient opinion who allows one to pass by, even though the light will turn on. If you wouldn't be able to see without the lights, right? So now it's nichola, he wants it. Then it's variable that he should close his eyes as he is passing by the area. Rabbi Ribiat writes that he can close his eyes when he goes there, when he starts, and it goes on. And then once it's on, he can already open his eyes. Okay? Better would be to walk behind the non-Jew, like you said. You can't wait for a guy to come. It's freezing cold and the snow is there and I want to walk by, right? So, but in the areas that you could, there are a lot of goyim, you should wait for them. Since the non-Jew is causing lights to turn on. Now, here, Rabbi Nachson writes, if the lights are LED lights, one does not have to be strict and may even intentionally, right, and initially walk in the area, even though there are other ways around. Okay, so we're mechalik here greatly when it comes to LED lights. And now perhaps Rabbi Nachson is talking over here by the LED lights when it's loy nichala, right? When I really don't care for it. And the LED lights, I can just walk there. Psikresh loy nichala, it's LED lights, there's no deraita. Perhaps if it's nichala, he would make a difference. He doesn't differentiate here. But perhaps there would be a difference if it was nichala. A person, if he's really going to enjoy the LED lights, then perhaps he should not just simply walk in that area. Okay. In the Yalkut Yosef, he also writes over here about these lights, about these motion-censored lights. And he writes, some poskim rule that it's the middle of the night, there's no pedestrians, and one has no other way of getting to one's destination. One may be leaning to go through the area anyway. The person walking through has no intention of turning on the lamp. Even though it's Sikresha, it's a Rikresha Nicholai, and the Rashba who allows this, right? He brings that down as well. Other poskim disagreed, and he says, Be'emet, it's very hard to rely on the Rashba, but perhaps together with the Tziruf, it would be okay. So here, Rabotai, it's so simple. In the end of the day, halakha l'maaseh is try not to walk in that area where the motion sensor is going to go on. If it's LED, you really have less problems, especially if it's really you don't really care about it and you don't really need it. If you have no other way around it, even if it's not LED and you have no other way around it, then you could walk through it. Better to close your eyes a little bit and then open them once the light already goes on. And the Rebbe also brings down that perhaps you should walk with somewhat of a shinoi, which is walking sideways instead of walking straight. Okay, what about automatic doors? Okay, so one may not approach a door that is opened by an electric sensor, as this is equivalent to completing the electric circuit directly and activating the motor that opens the door. So I'm doing it. I'm going in front of the door. I'm doing it. Now, although we saw Rabbi Rabinovich allowed you to do it, he said it's all just the Rabbanan, Sikresha lo nicholai. What does it mean, Sikresha? The door is opening. He holds that the door opening is not nichol. It's not what I wanted. It just removes the door. Okay? And therefore, it would be permissible according to him. According to others, it is not. Before we move on over here, let's take a look in the Yalkut Yosef, what he says about automatic doors. So here we go. One must take care not to approach a door that automatically is opened by an electrical eye. Meaning, if it's an electric door that automatically, when you come by, you should not approach it. What happened if someone approached a doorway, not realizing that he would activate an electric eye that opens the door, and the door did open? I didn't know it was an electric door, automatic door. I went there, automatic door opened. So it's a Maaseh Shabbat now, I can't go through it. He may go through the doorway, relying on the poskim who ruled that this is not considered benefiting from an act of Shabbat desecration. They claim that opening the door simply removes the obstacle and enables the person to walk through, as if a lion stood in the doorway, making it impossible to pass, and someone caused the lion to leave the area. Okay, so there is, so if you accidentally open the automatic door, you will be allowed to go through that door. Here in the Orchot Shabbat, he brings you a bunch of different instances. He says, what happened? Someone who's not Shomer Shabbat is going in front of the automatic door. Jewish guy. He's not Shomer Shabbat. And he's going in front of the automatic door. Can I follow suit? Right? Can I follow him? So it depends if the Maaseh Shabbat or not. And we just saw. The Yalkut Yosef said that even if I opened it by accident, it's not considered Maaseh Shabbat. It's just removing the line that was blocking the door. And therefore, you'll be allowed to go, even if a non-Shomer Shabbat Jew is opening that door. If a guy opened the door, entering immediately after him should be okay. If a katan opened the door, also not considered Maaseh Shabbat, and you'll be allowed to go through it. You're creating an electric circuit that is causing the motors to open it. According to Rabinovich, you will be allowed to. According to all the other poskim, no, because you're doing something. You might say you're doing something, you're causing it to happen, and they don't want you to do that. If a member of the medical staff of the hospital needs to come in and out, you can follow them afterwards. Okay. gentle enters and the guy comes on. Also, okay, fine. We talked about that. Yes. So security cameras. He doesn't mention it here in the Tzurba, but it's a very good question. There are those who are machmir and say that security cameras, the recording is considered like koitev, like writing and erasing and writing. Others who say that really the whole thing is lonichalai, I really don't care. Nobody really cares. No one wants to get recorded. And some say I need to keep them on because it's a safety. It really is a safety issue. So really, it comes down to different shitot. There is room to be makel if a person has a security camera that's just working. Just a security camera to just take videos. If you have them in the house, right, in the house in some of the rooms, it's better to probably take them off before Shabbat. If you didn't, you can walk around normally. You should definitely not watch the footage afterwards, unless you really have to, like something happened. But just the guy didn't take off the camera and he had a very nice Shabbos Suda, and now he wants to keep a recording of it. You can't go back and do it, and you can't keep it because it's not permitted to do that. So that's regarding security cameras.
One that detects motion and it moves with you.
It's problematic, but there is room to be makel, especially if you live in places that you need to have security cameras. Wherever you live, that requires a little safety. Security
Can I
cameras.
go back and listen to your Surim on Shabbat?
No, I just said that. That you cannot do.
Have a running about the Shabbat automated by itself.
Right.
That I could
Well, you shouldn't have a factory that's being automated by itself.
doing this whole Shabbat. I don't know, doing the thing.
It shouldn't be doing anything. You shouldn't be doing anything on Shabbat. Although Kalim could be set up before Shabbat to work, but not for your businesses. You don't want them to be doing anything. Okay. All right. So Rabotai, that is regarding motion sensors. Lechatchila, try not to go past them. If you have no other choice, there is ways. But the shinoi, close eyes. If you're going to be nichala, if it's going to be something that you like, if it's not like, you don't have to care about it. If it's LED, you have a lot less issues to deal with. Same thing with the pneumatic doors. Should not approach them. If someone else is approaching them, it's okay. There is that shita that allows you to even open the automatic doors on your own, but we don't follow that shita. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to deal with is on page 142, and that is electricities in hotels. Abutai, I have to tell you, it's very important to know this very, very well. And it's not just hotels, it's just cruise ships and anything else that a person might find himself on Shabbat. The halacha is very, very clear that if the hotel is not set up to accommodate Shabbat, meaning everywhere you go, there are sensors, everywhere they go, there are doors, everywhere they go, there are magnetic keys and stuff like that. And by the way, according to Rabbi Rabinovich, you're even allowed to use the magnetic key to open your doors if it's only LED and stuff. We don't follow that again. But according to him, it would be allowed. But la halacha, it's brought down in the Yalkut Yosef. I want to just read his lashon over here so people get it very clear. Because people think, I'll go there, and then I'll ask the rabbi, this guy calls me Erev Shabbat about a half hour wherever he is and says, I'm in this hotel for Shabbat. There's only magnetic keys. What do I do? Like, you didn't know when you're booking the place that they're not Shomer Shabbat there and they're not going to have these things, but everybody else does it. They know. Okay, here, listen to this. You can't go there. You have to find a Shabbat accommodating place. And if you can't, if you can, you should not put yourself in that place for Shabbat.
Automatic flush bathroom.
All these are problems. I mean, if you have no choice and you're there and you have to make, you're going to use it and get up. You don't. Okay. Listen to this. I want to read the lashon, and here is Rabbi Bitan's lashon in English. Yalkut Yosef, number 1, Shabbat. Says, it is forbidden to spend Shabbat in a hotel in which all rooms are locked and unlocked using electronic key or cards, or where all the entries open through mechanisms of an electric eye. Okay? It is asur lechatchila to go to these places if you know that's the way the hotel is set up. The person has to put this into consideration. When people ask me about going places, I say it's better not to go to these hotels on Shabbat. Better go on your vacation Sunday through Thursday and get back to wherever you live for Shabbat and don't go there. But the Chabad house has food. Yes, they have the food. What about everything else? What about everything else? What about your lodging? What about everything else that you're going to have on Shabbat? You're very nice. You can get an order from the Chabad house, but a food. But what about the rest of Shabbat?
No, usually somebody stays indoor. They open for you.
Some places know what to do, but why are you putting yourself in such a situation? That's not the way Shabbat is supposed to be. So I just wanted to read you that lashon that he writes over here. It is forbidden to put yourself in such a place, l'chatchila, on Shabbat. Okay, the guy now found himself there. He didn't realize he booked it for Shabbat. He didn't realize that the hotel didn't have. Someone told him it is. All right, now he's there. Now he has issues. So says the Al-Kut Yosef in source 34 on page 142. The guy is in his room, and his electric sensors everywhere, and he's unable to leave his room. He wants to go daven. He wants to say kiddush. He wants to come out of his room, but it's electric, everything. So what does he do? He should call the guy to come and deactivate, preferably va'adif b'derech kilkul. He want him to come and shut off all the electricity and to break it. So when I read this, I don't know how any guy is going to do this. The guy's going to tell you, go jump off the cliff. I'm not breaking the stuff. I'm the worker here. So again, you're putting yourself in a very hard spot. How are you going to get the guy to shut off the electricity for you? And I don't even think they have an option. All the magnetic doors and stuff like that, there's no way to shut it down. It's on. It's on.
So what you can do, you can open the tongue so it falls,
So then you know what happens? Then you have no security of your room.
No, you do a couple of minutes in and out. So that's why you need to go together. The one person.
Yeah, if you're going to keep it all day, so you don't need the magnetic key, then you can't lock your room. Then you're going to sleep. You're not going to sleep. You're going to be worried someone comes in. There's a bunch of Mishigoyim walking over there.
Usually
By breaking it, that's what you just said.
Inside is no better. A lot of these hotels on the inside, there are also automatic lights everywhere. The bathroom you walk in is automatic light. The room, the lamp over there is automatic light. So you're running into problems. Okay, the Orchot Shabbat says, regarding one who needs to stay in a hotel where rooms are open using a car with a magnetic strip, it is also possibly opening the door with the key, as is custom in Eretz Yisrael, because they have, Baruch Hashem, Yidin Hu Shabbat Shabbos. One should be particularly to stipulate from the outset that they provide him a key for this purpose. So they have one of the manual keys. Okay, and we're good. If this is not possible, one should proceed as follows. One should tell a guy that he has a drink, confectionery, or other present for him in the room, such that the Gentile will open the door for himself in order to get the present. What's going to happen? Because I'm opening the room. It's one problem opening the door. And when I walk inside, then what? The lights also go on. So I want the guy to not just open the door for me, and I can't tell him, I have to hint it to him. So I tell him I have a present inside. So open the door for me for you so I can give you something. And the guy is going to think you're a crazy guy who's trying to kill him or her and trying to invite him inside the room. So they're not going to do it. Okay, so you're going to get yourself in big problems. Rabbi Yashiv says, it appears that it's permitted to hint to the guy without any instruction that he's unable to enter his room. Since he will not use the cards. You can instead of telling him that I can't open the door for me, I can't use the card. I can't use the card. So maybe he'll understand that you have to open the door for him. If one sticks duct tape over the lock before Shabbat, the door will remain open and will not need to use the card. However, the drawback to this method is that it will be impossible to lock the door for the entire Shabbat.
Those are magnetic locks.
I'm reading what it says here. Yeah, you had a question?
No.
Okay, fine. Now, Eliezer Melamed says that there's another problem. One may not enter a room where doing so automatically turns on the light or the air conditioning. While one might claim that he did not intend to turn on the lights or air conditioning, the fact is everyone knows how the system works. You walk into the room, all of a sudden everything goes on. And problem in hotel rooms and in bathrooms. One who stays in such a hotel must make sure the system is switched off before Shabbat. Again, I don't know how feasible it is in a lot of our American hotels to shut off the system. If he did not take care of this in advance and is outside the room when Shabbat begins, he may ask a guy to open the door for him. He should further ask the guy to stay for a bit so that the guy will benefit from the lights or the air conditioning, since he is then viewed as having turned them on for his own sake, and the Jew may then benefit from them. So you have to have the guy not just open the door for you, but come inside, sit on your couch here for a few minutes, and then he walks out, and then you're okay. So before you go to the bathroom, you have to call the guy every time. I have to use the bathroom. So he has to come in and sit there first, and then you come in. It's really very impractical of how you have to do this. What if a hotel guest is inside such a room when Shabbat begins, and he knows that if he leaves, he will now cause the air conditioning to go off and the lights to go off? He's leaving now the
No,
room.
but there's grammar. It doesn't turn off that.
If he can easily stay inside until after Shabbat, or if a guy is due to come shortly to disable the system, it's preferable to wait inside. So I remember that one of my daughters, we gave birth to her on Shabbat in New Hyde Park, and everything was automatic there, right? Everything's automatic. Sinks automatic. This is that. It was automatic. And I made a cheshbon. Someone told me there's a shul. You come out, there's a shul at 10, 20 minutes away. And I made a cheshbon that it's going to be so many problems getting in and then probably coming back in, coming out and coming back in. And I just stayed in the room the whole Shabbat. And my wife had to kept calling the nurse to come in to use the bathroom, to go check in the bathroom. So if I had to use the bathroom, so the nurse would go in first and turn on the lights and stuff like that.
How did you call her?
Well, she is going to be considered a chala sheyesh by sakana. She just gave birth. She's allowed to do these things. For her, I can do things also. But for myself, it's a different story. Okay? So, now, Malamed says, listen, he says, if you have no choice and you can't stay in the room, it causes him anguish, he may leave the room or bathroom because the purpose of the system is to save the hotel money. So it's a psik reisha, and there is those opinions, psik reisha is okay, and it's a garim and it's a malkum tzarech, and perhaps it would be okay in cases that it is needed. So comes out Abutai, going to hotels on Shabbat without making proper plans is very, very problematic. So I don't know, how do they do it when they do these conventions in the Stanford and stuff like that? Anyone went to one of those? The Good makes it and stuff like that. How do they deal with it? Anybody at all went to one of these?
I went to
Shabbaton, yeah.
I went to Shabbaton.
Yeah.
And they had this, a lot of it was, they didn't have the whole hotel, but they had a nice.
Partially, yeah.
Basically, I think what we did was we took some like duct tape or some tape and we put it over, so basically it wasn't really locking.
So everyone's doors just open overnight?
But from the inside,
You locked it from the inside, so you don't need a magnetic key. And what about the other automatic doors? And what about the bathroom automatic lights and stuff like that?
We didn't go outside.
I believe you can disconnect the automatic.
The automatics.
It has maybe one door on that you could go. There's like one non-automatic door that you went outside.
Right. So it might be easier if you go with an organization or something like that, especially if it's a rabbinic source and rabbinic rabbis are there and they're going to talk to the management and set it up. And they set up before Shabbat. It's probably a lot easier to deal with. Whereas if one individual decides to go to some hotel, it'll probably be a lot harder to deal with.
They had rules. They said like you don't have any hot plates or anything.
Right, because
disregarded
that.
The hotel got wind of it. They were not happy about it.
Right, because they don't want the places going on fire.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Okay, I would say that's on hotels on Shabbat. Very careful. Don't put yourself in places. Put yourself in places. I'll just mention one last thing about this. Someone once told me that they're going to a expo, a show on Shabbat, right? So they were in a certain business and they're having an expo on Shabbat. So they're going there and a trade show, stuff like that. And they're going to go there. They're not going to be Halal Shabbat. They're going to walk behind someone's automatic door and this and that. And they have meals separately. But on Shabbat, they're going to be sitting there and watching the show. Now, you may be 100% right that you're not being Halal Shabbat. But I tell you one thing, that's not considered oneg and kavod Shabbat. To sit there at a trade show and watch this one speak and that one speak and this thing and that thing and this thing. Where's the kavod? Where's the oneg Shabbat? It's not there. So don't put yourself in places that you're not going to be able to enjoy Shabbat to the max. Shabbat is supposed to be completely enjoyed all the time. Find yourself in places where it's going to be kavod and oneg Shabbat and shmirat Shabbat kechata without any issues at all. That's lechatchila. Now, a person finds himself because his wife gave birth, or he has a sick parent, or something like that, and he has to end up a certain place. Okay, you have to know how to deal with them. But don't put yourself in such place. Okay, next topic, page 145, is the timers. Now, we already went through the topic of the timers, of the Shabbat timers. So, very briefly, regarding the timers. First of all, Rav Moshe Feinstein, in the Igrot Moshe, says, if we are to allow timers, we should allow them only for lights and nothing else. Rav Moshe says the reason why we allow light, because we found even in the past generations, they would have goyim to come in and turn off lights, turn on candles, light candles, stuff like that on Shabbat. So therefore, timers are no worse, and you can have the timers turn on and turn off lights. Rav Moshe says everything else should not be on a timer. That would include your air conditioning. That would include everything else that a person puts on a timer, his plata and anything else that we do. Rav Moshe was not of that practice. And Moshe did not attune to that practice and did not want people to do that.
Why do you say lights?
He said because in previous generations they were already calling goyim to turn on and off lights on Shabbat.
Even on?
So go through the tshuva over here. Interesting. He says, look at the second paragraph. He says, "Ubar, it's clear. If timers were around at the time of the Tanoim Amoraim, they would have answered it completely." That's what Moshe says about timers. Okay, and he says perhaps timers is Amir Lakum. He wants to say as well, but he says the common practice of the timer time off and on. And since it was a universal practice to have goyim extinguish the candles of large candelabras, which were of actual fire, and there are also places which are practiced to have the goyim relight them in the Beit Midrash for Nilah prayer on Yom Kippur, right? And even on Shabbat. So there were already a practice about lights on and off. Therefore, timers on and off would be okay according to Rav Moshe. Just lights. He doesn't want you to do it. He doesn't want you to do it. It's taking away from Shabbat. It's taking away from Shabbat. Just to put it into perspective. Recently, we got a question. I think I asked a question about a year ago. So everybody. Okay, let's go. We're almost done. Someone came a question as follows. Those robot vacuum cleaners? Can I have it running on Shabbat? Doesn't by itself. Okay.
The same with your air conditioning and heat.
You're right. So halacha, the poskim say, if they ask you, don't permit it. It makes noise. But according to a lot of Sephardic poskim, making noise is not an issue. But even such, it's not kavod Shabbat or next Shabbat to have this vacuum running around. It's taking away from the Shabbat feeling. All right. So a lot of these automated things, it might not be Meikar Adin Asur to use or put them on or set them on a timer, stuff like that. Yet we do not want to use them because it takes away from Onek Shabbat. And that perhaps Rav Moshe's also opinion here. Lights is one thing. Everything else, don't put on a timer.
What about humanoid robots?
Same thing. We don't want them working on Shabbat. All right. The Shmirat Shabbat Kilchata says, well, we already saw this, was that when it comes to timers, so I have a timer for the air conditioning, for the light. The minhag became that we use timers for everything, pretty much. We actually put air conditioners on timers, and we put heaters on timers, and we put platters on timers, and it's okay. It's not like Rav Moshe.
How can you put heater on timer?
I'm just saying, if you had an electric heater, right, you can put on a timer. Okay. So halacha is the minhag the oil became that we use timers for other things as well, not just for lights. But that was Rav Moshe's sheet. Now, Shmirat Shabbat Kilchata tells us that. What if I want to extend the light that's on? So I have it set to 10 o'clock to shut off, and I want it to go off 11 o'clock now. So we saw this already. L'halacha, it's not a problem to extend the current state of the electricity. So if it's off, I can extend it further to be off. If it's on, I can extend it further to be on. Right. So first of all, this is according to the shita that the timer itself is not muktzah. Okay. So there is an opinion that it is. You're not allowed to touch it at all. Rav Mordechai Eliyahu on the next page, on page 148, in source 42, Rav Mordechai Eliyahu says you don't touch timers at all. Once it's set and forget. You don't touch it on Shabbat. But l'halacha, we're saying that you could take out the pins as long as you're not causing any electrical change to the timer while you're taking out and putting those pins back in. Okay? I'm allowed to continue the electric current. So if it's on, to make it further on. To make it off, make it further off. To turn it on early or to turn it off early is problematic. Turning it on early is actually more easier if it's l'tzarech mitzvah. So a guy wants to learn Torah, right? so he can put it to go on a little earlier. That's okay. To turn it off early, there are those who say that it's okay, and that's in source 41. But Chavadi is not so happy with that source. But he says that at the end of the day, if someone relies on that source, you don't have to protest against them. And technically, they can turn it off early. And the example is the guy doesn't want to spend money, even though it's really not a lot of money to leave it on for another hour. But the guy wants to save some money. The guy did it. You don't have to protest against him, but it shouldn't be done. But if he did it, it is okay.
He has to go to bed early.
Right. So if he's a chola, even shaving my sakana, perhaps it'll be better, and that'll be okay. Now, I want to point out on page 147, source 40, which is a chidush of the Shmirat Shabbat Kilchata. Look what he says over here. If the timer was set before Shabbat, it is permitted to adjust it when the power is off, such that the power will be turned off again after it is turned on. Earlier, that was set to do originally. You hear what he says? You hear the case of the time? Okay. So again, the guy has it off right now. He has it off right now. Okay, the timer is off. It's going to go on at 9, and it's supposed to go off again at 11. Will be turned on off again after it's turned on earlier than it was set to do originally. So it's supposed to go on 9 and go back off at 11. And right now it's off. Says, I can make it go off earlier. And now, even though it's going to go on again and then go back off, I can now make it go off 10:30. Why? Because the current state is off. So I could continue the current state later based on the current state being off now. That's what he's saying. And he's saying the other way around. At a time when the electricity supply is on, it is permitted to adjust the timer so your power will be turned on again after it's turned off earlier than it was set to do originally. So right now it's on, then it's going to go off, and then on again. I can make it go on earlier now because it's on. So even though it's going to go off in between, I'm allowed to make it go on earlier because right now is that a current electric current is on. And therefore, I can make it go on earlier, which is a big chidush because in the middle, it is turning off or turning on in the middle. And yet he says you could go ahead and change it earlier or less. Okay, so Halacha Abutai, about timers. Rav Moshe held that the only timer you should use is on life. No other timers, no other thing timers. Minig Olam is not to follow Rav Moshe on this. We use timers for air conditioning, heaters, and whatever else is there, platas and stuff like that. The Rav Eliyahu says you should not touch a timer at all. You shouldn't touch the timer, but if a person wants to touch the timer and it's a timer that there's no bells, whistles, or lights, make it very clear to you. No electricity changes when I'm touching it. Okay? If there's the digital timers, you can't do anything with it because everything is digital. There's the old manual timers. Take the pin in, take the pin out. Right? Because nothing is changing while I'm doing it. I'm allowed to extend the current. According to this, no. According to the ones who say you can touch it, it's not muksa. And you can take out the pin, you can put it back in as long as I'm not doing anything to it, and I'm not changing the electric current. Once I'm in a state of current, I could continue that current, and that's not a problem. La halacha. All right, that is on Shabbat timers. Let's talk briefly now, Rabotai, about Shabbat elevators. All right, now before you say, oh, Shabbat elevators, you can't use them. I have to tell you, sometimes, I say before you say you can't use them, I want to explain to you that it is a big issue. And I was in Eretz Yisrael recently, and I was staying in Or Yehuda for Shabbat. There was a Shabbat share brachot in Or Yehuda. And we were staying in the building. We were on the 13th floor. Okay? And the building still continued to go. I think it had 18 floors there. There are buildings in Queens and Forest Hills that are it's high, very high.
11 floors.
So no, some people are young and strong and stuff like that. Okay. I can understand you want to be going up and down, walking. It's very nice. When I was on the 13th floor, I think I went up the night, and then once in the middle of the day, I went up after the daytime Shabbat Shabbat went up, and I didn't go up. That's it. I didn't go up anymore. My wife said, "You forgot something upstairs." I said, "Okay, I forgot something upstairs. It's done. We're not going up 10 times, right?" I went up twice in the whole Shabbat, and then going down was much easier. Now, a lot of people can't do this. It's hard for them.
Didn't they say you're not allowed to perspire on Shabbat?
Well, you're not going to perspire from walking up there.
Oh.
You're not doing it for exercise. You're trying to-
Right, and it's just-
Your muscles like
I tell you, some of these Israeli kids that I was going up with, they were very good. They were just flying through those steps as if it was nothing. It's going. There was even a guy that was there that was a little bit more heavy set, and I thought for sure he wasn't going to be able to go up the steps. He was a younger guy though, but he was faster than me flying up those steps. But anyway, let's take a look at the Shittot. Rav Moshe Levi brings 3 opinions about the status of Shabbat elevators. First thing to know is that in order to be considered a Shabbat elevator, it really has to have a hechsher on. So not only do you need kosher certification on your refrigerators, you also need a kosher certification on your Shabbat elevators. Not all Shabbat elevators are kosher.
The weight, I believe the weight.
So now, if it's really kosher, which means is what kosher means, kosher elevator means that me walking into the elevator is not causing anything to happen to the elevator. No lights, no whistles, no bells, no counterweight, no measures. Nothing is happening because of me.
Those doors, you go in and these doors are closing. They're gonna close, they're gonna close on you.
So if they're not going to close on you, then you're causing the doors to open. So usually the way the doors do, the doors open and they wait a little bit. And then after a few seconds, then they close. So you have to get in.
So what he's
They have a
saying, if you
sensor,
got
they
stuck,
sense you, they'll open up.
No, there is a sensor, but also doors open automatically. And they wait for a little bit. You reach the floor. What happens? The door opens and it waits. Then it starts to close. As it's closing, if you walk in, then the sensor opens it up. So that'll be a problem to go once it's starting to close. You have to go when it's first opened up, and now you walk in.
what he's
Back and
saying,
it could open. Yeah.
No, that's not a problem.
if you got stuck and it opens up again,
Then that's a problem. You're causing that to happen.
so you walked in, you
So
walked.
that's what I'm saying. You have to be there waiting for the elevator to come. As soon as it comes and opens the doors, you have to go in before it starts to close. Because once it starts to close, you're causing it to open. So if I'm not doing anything at all to it, my going on is not causing anything to happen with the elevator, then you're talking about a Shabbat elevator. And they're going to permit it, according to this way of understanding, you're going to permit it legamre, up and down, not an issue. There's another opinion in the box on page 149, number 2. That opinion is that using a Shabbat elevator is entirely prohibited. You're not allowed to use a Shabbat elevator because you going on is causing something to the elevator. There is a third opinion, and this is the opinion that most people and most poskim go with, is that it is permissible to use the elevator going up, the Shabbat elevator going up, but not to use it to go down. Not because it's easier, but rather they hold that going down, your weight makes a difference. Your weight makes a difference. It is not, that's what they're trying to say. Based on the mechanisms of the elevator, you riding it up, your weight makes no difference to it. It doesn't work any more or less because of you on there. But you going down in the elevator does make a difference.
I would think it's the other way around because
I know.
the motor would draw more energy to pull up.
So they're saying your weight doesn't pull it up. There's a counterweight that pulls it up. And that counterweight pulls it up, and it's not you. But you going down, actually you causing it to go down. And therefore, you cannot take it down. So Rosh Levi brings these 3 opinions, and he holds that you can use it going up, but you shouldn't be using it going down. And he brings the Minchat Yitzchak, who is of the opinion of the Dayan Weiss, right? And he's of the opinion that Shabbat elevators are completely awesome. No matter what Shabbat elevator, you cannot use a Shabbat elevator. The Sefer Maliot b'Shabbat, right? The elevators on Shabbat. That he holds. What does he hold over here?
Even for the age, infirm and the age.
Say again.
Even for the old people, elderly, and
Right. So Dayan Weiss.
people.
They have to get apartment on the.
He says even more. Take a look at Diane Weiss's over here on page 150. He says, not only is it your weight doing something, which he holds it's for sure, he says if there's any suffix, that's only in Chutz La'aretz. For in Eretz Yisrael, the whole electric company is Jewish, and you going on is causing the Jews working more, and it's more problematic. And he holds basically you can't have any Shabbat elevators in Eretz Yisrael, and that's Diane Weiss. And the third opinion of Levi Yitzchak Halpern that going up is okay because it's being pulled up by the counterweight heavier than the car and its passengers. But going down, you're doing something. Your weight is causing it to go down, and therefore you cannot ride the elevator down.
So if all Jews are working in the electrical company, how are you gonna keep the lights on?
No, but you're causing more to happen with your weight. That's what he's saying. You're causing it more with your weight now to happen. So basically, Diane Weiss says, you using the elevator, I don't care how it's set up, it's impossible that you are not causing something by going in there. And then you have the other opinions, Moshe Levi brought, and others brought, that going up and down is not an issue. And then the middle opinion is going up is not a problem, going down is the problem. And if you want to take a look at the mechanisms on page 152, he has here the control system, the motor, the hoist ropes, elevated car, traveling cable, hoist weight door, counterweight, car buffer. Twice is what it shows, but I'm sure someone here can make an elevator model and you can explain it better. And but that is now Rav Henkin and Yehuda Unterman, the Ashkenazic chief rabbi of the state of Israel during the 1960s, they wrote in a journal, Torah Shabbat Peh, that it's permissible to ride in an elevator if one does not push any buttons. Rav Henkin points out the halacha, follows the opinion Beit Hillel that prior to Shabbat one may arrange for utensils to work on Shabbat. Accordingly, since the rider performs no malacha, Rav Henkin permitted the use of an elevator or Shabbat if no buttons are pressed. Listen to Rav Unterman writes, I personally witnessed great Torah sages entering an elevator and traveling to the floor for which a guy pushed the button, and they never raised the possibility that their weight caused a halachic problem. Furthermore, says Rav Unterman, that he was present one Shabbat when the Chafetz Chaim was meeting with other rabbinical figures discussing community matters. When the Chafetz Chaim needed something to be brought to him, one of the rabbis proceeded to ride the elevator along with a non-Jew to retrieve the item. And none of the rabbis, including the Chafetz Chaim, objected to his riding the elevator. So based on this, Rav Unterman and Rav Henkin said, your weight is not doing nothing, and even if it did, no one held it was an issue, and therefore, riding an elevator that's a real Shabbat elevator would not be a problem, especially if a guy pressed the buttons and the like.
In those days, the elevator was
Or a different technology.
No, it was
Right.
a new invention, and they
They-
might probably.
Don't say they didn't know. That you cannot say that. They knew.
I didn't say you know. They probably didn't question those.
You're like a guy over there.
Yeah, there's a goy. There's an elevator.
Okay, so just 2 quick points. The halacha, most poskim say going up in a Shabbat elevator is not a problem. Going down might be a problem. Those who really need to use it can go up and go down. They can use it. Those who don't need it to go up or down, they shouldn't use it. But those who need somewhere in between, they can take it going up, but should not take it going down. Rabbi Shlomo Rosen writes over here, not every Shabbat elevator actually absorbs Shabbat, so you have to get a hechsher on it. So if you're going to a place, you should know who the rabbis are who set up the Shabbat elevator and how it actually works. And in the end, the last piece over here on page 156 is using electric pillows or electric blankets on Shabbat. They're not considered muktzah as long as they're plugged in from before. Person can use them. They used to heat them up and stuff like that. But you have to make sure that when you're using them, you're not going to pull it out and then shut off the electric current. And just one last, page 157, the Olat Riyah, he says you should know there are 2 things that are going on Shabbat. There is the negative holiness and what he calls the positive holiness. He says negative holiness is the staying away from all sorts of apparatuses and electricity and stuff like that. And that allows staying away from certain things that you shouldn't be using on Shabbat, allows for more Kiddushat to come in. Because when you're busy with your phone the whole time, you're not allowing for Kiddushat to come in completely into you. So on Shabbat, when you stay away from those things, you allow for more Kiddushat to come into the person. Yesh Shalom Minyan? Rabbi Chanan ben Shomer Tzaddik Baruch Hu Zakol Yisrael. לפי כך חיבר לנו תורתו שנאמר, אדוני חפץ למען צדקו יגדיל תורה מיגדיל.
Good.